Morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Horses, Day 11 at Saratoga, brought to you by Saratoga Springwater, Keisha Clement, Andy Serling.
Mhm.
Another glorious day, and I thought
Yeah.
today's card might be, the next few cards are the strongest cards we've had, I think, at the meet.
Super competitive. Yeah, Andy texted me the other day when they drew, and he said, I just want to give you a heads up. You may want to get an early start on Thursday's card because it's pretty tough. And there were a few races today that were just, I mean, you could go a number of different ways, like
Well,
staring at them for a
eighth
really
race we were talking about before,
disgusting amount
the
of
seventh
time.
race. Yeah.
And it looks like, once again, the Apple Weather app may be just completely wrong about everything. We're hoping, at least. It's a bit overcast, but so far we're fast and firm.
Yeah, more sun than clouds.
Yeah.
And, it's Saratoga, and storms can always pop up when there's zero chance of rain, but today looks like we'll be fine. Maybe a sprinkle here or there. In fact, there's a little chance on Saturday, but it seems to be pretty minor. So we're optimistic that we'll have a very strong week, and the cards are really, really strong. 10 today and 11 and 12 on Friday and Saturday. But we'll deal with today's card after you head over to NyraBets. Head over to NyraBets.com. If you're not a member, use the promo code SPA200, and we'll match up to $200 of your initial deposit. We also have the middle pick four. I'm wondering what the statute of limitations is on this slate. I'm thinking of getting rid of this slate.
You feel like people know about the middle pick
You
four now?
either know or don't know. It's races 2, 4, or 7
And if
today
you
in
know,
10 race
you
card.
know.
If you know, you know. And with 11 race tomorrow, I think we'll probably have 3 pick fives. Yet we don't have a slate for that. There you have
It's
it.
very rude.
We have a $7,500 hit and split, the last trifecta today, and Delmar's first trifecta. So the first trifecta at Delmar and the last trifecta here, $7,500 hit and split. More information over at NyraBets.com, and you've got opt-in over at NyraBets.com as well. We have the contest, $300 buy-in. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to sign up for the Saturday contest. $300 buy-in, cash and seat prizes, Nyra.com/contest. And we just started this last week. I think it's a tremendous idea for $40 buy-in feeder to try to qualify for that contest for just $40 on Friday. Also go to Nyra.com/contests. We have the low rollers today. Jay and Ray over by the Miller Time 4-Star Dave's Bar. $30 bankroll, $10 prize pool. Somebody, I think, the first week won $1,200 in this.
Cool.
Yes. So
Very
looks like a
nice.
lot
Well
of fun.
done.
Heading over to low rollers, and at least one half of the Jay and Ray team is nice. I'm not going to tell you which one it is.
They're waiting for you.
They are waiting, patiently or impatiently. It's First Responders Day here, so all first responders allowed in today for free. Maybe one was calling me right away. Text, that was pretty quick. Anyhow, so expect to see a lot of first responders here today as well, and we welcome them. And last, but somewhere between least and not least, Saratoga Live, FS2, 1 to 6:30 today. All right, so race 1. Once again, no, this is not the one. I'm always disappointed when we're on the show together and I don't get to pick a Clement horse that you don't pick. That's always one of the highlights for me when I get to do the show with you. So, Jimmy the Tooth. I always think of Jimmy the Tulip, the Bruce Willis character in the whole 9 yards, right?
I never thought
Whenever
of that.
I see his horse's name, I think of Jimmy the
only
Tulip.
thing I'm ever going to
It's a
think
great
of.
movie. I love that movie. The sequel, not so much. This horse is going to
The
be
sequel rarely is.
Yeah, no, that's true. They rarely are. Godfather 2.
Fair.
This horse is going to be the favorite, I would assume, and is the horse to beat. I don't know if you're going in a different direction, but I'm going a slightly different direction.
I am. I think both you and I took some first-time starters over this one. He's definitely the one to beat. He was very green in the debut, too, kind of lugging in on the left lead, and you saw him trying to do that a little bit there. They added the blinker second time. Definitely could have been responsible for adding a little bit more focus. He has some natural speed. Just second best to El Grandeo, who appreciated getting on the turf.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, that was his second start.
Second
He was
start
the
on the
Linda
turf,
Rice
that's
horse
right.
that had
The
run
Linda
so
Rice,
well in his debut, only to lose to, I want to say, a George Weaver horse that had run well in his first start and came back. I have nothing against this horse. I went in a slightly different direction. You went to the horse that I picked third, Instamatic.
I liked the workouts from this one. And it's interesting. He is debuting sprinting on the turf, and he kind of moves a little bit more like a turf horse. If you watch his last 2 workouts on XBTV, the last one was he's been wearing blinkers in all of his workouts. So I'm guessing he's wearing blinkers for the debut. But he had to work on the turf from the gate last time, broke sharply with Joel Rosario up. And 2 works back, he actually was slightly second best, but held his own okay against Dornock, who we're going to see the full brother to Mage debuting on the dirt on Saturday in what looks to be a loaded
Saturday,
2-year-old
7th race,
race. Yeah, it looks to be really exciting. And so for a turf sprinter, I thought that he held his own pretty well in there, taking a little bit of a shot, but of course, a lot of unknowns with a lot of first-time starters and not a lot of works available to watch.
It's interesting with Instamatic. The Dam, I think, was more of a dirt horse, and she's 0 for 1 with a reduction in the turf, but it's a huge turf family, as I'm sure you know. Now, the third Dam is Weah,
Yep.
who is one of the all-time greatest. I was talking with Peter Brandt, who owned Weah. He bought her from Daniel Wildenstein, and we were talking about her yesterday, one of our favorite topics to discuss. But the second Dam was a horse named Seattle Way, and Seattle Way is a horse that some people may remember is the horse that Julie Crone was riding when she was badly injured here on closing day in 1993.
Wow.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw the name, I said, I know who that horse is.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that Weah was the third Dam, because that horse was a Weah. But there is real turf there, and I'm certainly not going to be surprised when this horse is a runner and have the horse second. I'm a Data Moon. This could be just turn out to be a dumb pick on my part. But we have seen Jose Cameo have some first-time starters and turf sprints do okay. I didn't particularly love the workout that this horse had. I don't know if you had different thoughts, but there was a half to 2 turf winners that were actually pretty good. I just thought this horse, kind of horse that might have some speed and could be a little interesting at a price to throw in. Not a particularly likely winner in here, but maybe a horse that's a better bet than his odds suggest.
Yeah, that's fair. It worked 10 and 2 at the OBS April sale. Kind of urged along a little bit. I thought it was an okay work, and that was reflected with just the $20,000 purchase price. But he is a New York bred. Been training at Monmouth, so it's hard to see exactly, what he has been doing in the mornings. If that 35 and 3 gate workout last time is any inclination, he could show a little bit of speed.
I thought the other horse is the horse that we have fourth, the 10 Film Academy. The Dam was a Christophe Clement horse that was a solid turf runner. Ran 90 buyers, a couple of turf horses would run from there, and even maybe the 6. But the problem with the 6, so you have third and I had fifth, is Union Rags. He's a dreadful turf sire.
He is, but there is turf pedigree
On the
in
Dam
this
side,
one.
big.
Price is truth. There's a big turf pedigree here. Out of a Tappet mare, the Dam won a couple times on the turf. She was stakes placed, and she's been a very good producer, including Grade 1 winner Tripoli, who won the Pacific Classic, but he's also a 2-time turf winner. And there's plenty of turf in the family. Watching this horse's last workout, it was on the dirt. Manny Franco up, started ahead of a workmate and was always going a little bit better. I do wonder if he's going to want longer going forward.
Longer, and the Union Rags, I used to tease Chad Brown and say you're gonna die on
Everybody's
the
trying
hill
to make him
of
a
trying to
turf
make him.
sire.
Even he's given up
But
finally.
this one does have plenty of pedigree for
On
it
the
on
Dam
the
side.
bottom. Yeah.
No question about it. Race number 2, 1 mile on the inner turf course. A horse that you and I don't have really very high in our picks is Miss San Gabriel, and I thought she'd take a lot of money in here off the big win, and I do think that Graham Motion's being realistic with her, spotting her in here, not going to non-winners of 1, which she's not going to be good enough to win. I don't know, though. I know she won easily in here, but man, this was a weak field.
She's just facing, I think, tougher in here today. I don't think it's a negative that she shows up for 50,000. I think it's a very logical spot. You're absolutely right. If she goes into a first level allowance, she's just going to be totally over her head. She showed speed after not the cleanest of breaks either. She had a little bit of a stutter step coming out too. It was her first time going long on the turf. I just felt that even though she comes in here for the 50, she was meeting, I thought, a pretty deep field, and I preferred horses that were going to be dropping in class after facing winners already.
I have no argument with that, and you have taken Tap It Up, who I have second on top.
Tap It Up, last time off slow, got a little bit keen, kind of rushed up, just a lot going on in that race, and just again, significantly tougher too. I just think
Slow
after
pace, too.
Yeah, it was. And after breaking her maiden for 75, this is just the right spot.
I have no argument with that. I think that she makes perfect sense in this race, and think she just had no chance. A horse that you and I have left out of our top 4 that I have to imagine is going to take some money is Annihilate. Last time was second to Peg A.K.'s Girl at a huge price. And in theory, off that race, she's supposed to be competitive here. Now,
They did just go 1-2
they were
around.
just walking around the class. Now, to be fair, this horse was outside, and you probably wanted to be inside. You probably want to be inside, and so I can say it's against her. I just didn't really want her in this spot.
I thought it was tough. They went 1-2 around the track. She just kind of ran in place throughout. She was a big price, and she was positioned forward, which I thought was a smart move by Jose Lezcano. I just can't imagine her being able to kind of waltz around like she did last time.
Yeah, I considered tapping up on top and was happy when you picked the 4 on top that I went in the other direction. And do we know who's riding the 8 lay Yasmin?
Luis
Jasmine?
Saez.
Luis Saez is
Yes.
riding John Velasquez off his mounts. We with Johnny a speedy recovery. Had an
Yeah.
incident at the gate yesterday. Seemed a little sore getting off, but hopefully he'll be back.
Yes,
with us
they said
soon.
X-rays came back clean, according to his agent Ron Anderson, which is good news. But a little bit sore in his thigh after that 2-year-old took a turn at the break yesterday.
Yes, no question about it. As far as Lady Jasmine, she's been facing significantly better horses. I also think she's just had sort of semi-ridiculous trips in those races, wide to nowhere, just sort of never in a particularly comfortable spot
She
where
never
she had a
got to
chance
run
to
last
get
time
it.
either. Yeah.
And you look at her last race, what chance did she have in that race? So I just thought it was a needed drop down, very much like the horse of Grand Motions, just David Donk putting her in a race that she can win, instead of just banging his head against the wall trying to win the non-winners of one,
Yeah.
run her a race like this that she can win. So I thought I'd take her on the drop down.
Makes sense.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Race number 3. I know that your top selection was scratched, and
Yes.
you scratched right into my choices, which was annoying because it's better when we disagree. But
And I had a strong theory in here too.
Really?
but- oh well. Yes.
like all strong theories,
I
the
know.
racetrack, they often
I know.
don't see the light of day. So we're down
it
to
was a
5
good one
here,
though, I
yeah.
promise you.
This is the one somewhat disappointing scratch race.
Yeah.
The good news is that we're not really affected throughout much of the day today. But for my money, I just wanted the horses coming out of that game face race. And both of these horses, the 2 and 5, were forwardly placed. The race sort of came apart for the most part. And I just thought these horses ran against better. And now it's their 2, Real Star, his first time Bill Morey. And his horses have been running extremely well. And like a lot of trainers, he's a bit streaky. We saw that back in New York during the year. And lately his horse has been live. And I don't know. Who else am I supposed to want here? I don't want Brisky Frolic. We'll show his last race. And I know it's Linda Rice, and there's going to be this assumption that every horse she runs is going to win. And to be fair, it does sort of seem like that. But I'm just not a big fan of this horse overall. I thought this was a weak field.
Yeah, this is the last dirt race when she finished second. And since claiming this filly, she tried the starter allowance a couple of times, sprinting on turf, long on turf. Now she goes back to sprinting on the dirt. And I often find that, and you mentioned this the other day, and I think it's very true, when we see Linda Rice coming in with new claims or a horse that is maybe trying to strike while the iron's hot, like the one yesterday that came back in just 11 days and won going the 9 furlongs. But when she has a horse that's kind of a knocking around for a little bit and not really getting the job done, that sometimes is a little bit of a negative.
Yeah, and I mean, let's look at 2 of her winners yesterday. One of them in the mile and eighth race, you said, that race just completely incinerated.
Right.
For people who think there's something going on, the race got a 62 buyer. That horse
Is that
didn't.
when Ichiban
that,
won?
Yeah, that
Yes.
horse didn't win. The rest of them, I mean, the 5, the Donk horse who I picked,
Right.
completely failed to show
Right.
up. April Antics probably, in retrospect, moved about a furlong or two too soon, going a mile and an eighth, and she stopped to a dead walk and
couldn't
won
get
by
the
a nose,
distance.
the
Yeah.
62 buyer. Let's put things into perspective. And the other one was just lucky to win. I mean, if she hadn't drawn inside of the second place finisher, she probably wouldn't have won the
I
race.
mean,
She held on by a
Amanda's
desperate
Folly.
neck,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I mean, that's another race that came up woefully slow, I think. So, I think people may be getting a little bit carried away, though obviously Linda's having a great meet with 13 wins. Chad Brown has 10 or 11. She has 13, right?
Yes.
And he won 1 or 2 yesterday.
1.
Okay, so he's
Yes.
at 10.
10.
And she's at 13.
Yes.
Pletcher's at 9. No, Pletcher had a win. So he's at 10. No, wait. He was it 8, 9, and 10? It was 8, 9, and 10.
I'm
So
gonna take
Todd's
your
at
word
9,
for it on
Chad's at
that.
10, and she's at 13. Okay. Say that 17 times fast. Race number 4, I believe we both picked Mon Petit Choux in here,
Yes.
who will not play. You know what was maybe most happy, and you had the pronunciation right, I heard when you were on the air, was that there was a horse in yesterday that had the word fort pronounced
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
Greg
N.A.
tried to
Fort.
call it forte up
Yes.
here. I shut him down.
No, no, that one was French. Yeah, she is strong. N.A.
Yes,
Fort.
I was very excited. I hate to think how many people are continuing to hear the mispronunciation of the word fort. So I'm guessing that Vitami will be the favorite here off this big win at Parks will show for David Jacobson, who did have a win, his first win in a while. His first win in quite a while, actually, here. Got up with a short price favorite to win with a good trip. I don't know. I picked the horse third. I scratched him for second. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I did the same kind of thing. It's funny. This is a mare that I'm familiar with, having seen her towards the start of her career down at Gulfstream Park, and she was one of those kind of hard-knocking, middle of the road types. One thing I didn't love is that even though she was much the best in this race, you could see she started drifting a little bit. I don't know if it was getting a bit distracted, stride shortening a little bit. She was clearer from the rest of the field. I just do wonder if she's going to be able to bring that over here. I did like Mon Petit Choux in here. I ended up scratching into Maravilloso, who does take a drop in class. She was a horse that I thought had resented the kickback in some of her previous races, especially that wet track race over at Aqueduct when she ran fourth against Much Better. I think she runs better when she's a little bit more kind of forwardly placed as well.
I'm definitely going to key her third in my tries.
All right.
And this is a horse you scratched into, and she's just a tough horse to make as a winning
She
type in
is.
here.
I
and
know
that's-
she is.
That's
I
my
know.
problem, but obviously she's a serious contender in here, and nobody would deny that. I took Reigning Chick, and I don't mind scratching into Reigning Chick because you won't be that short a price. And her last race was this sort of crazy race where, for those the completely deranged out there that think the Ortiz brothers help each other win, this was a race where Irad was riding the absolute lone speed, and Jose was riding this horse. The horse doesn't break, and he guns the horse up into a completely insane pace. And whatever chance Irad had on a horse who was a pretty short price was completely eliminated at the start. So I guess Jose was helping Irad in that race too. And I know her form looks bad, but man, she's taking a big drop. And I always like the sort of sign of life last time. You don't have to go that far back when she was running figures that make her competitive. So I like that she sort of got sent in this Mission a Mile, cuts back a little bit today. And I'll take her here because I didn't want Vita Mai on top.
They claimed her for 25 too, so going back down to 16 is not, a
And
huge
her
jump.
form is a little dubious, and she might not be in great form, but I'm going to give her a little bit of a shot today, and you obviously don't disagree either. Race number 5 at 1.16 miles. This was a pretty interesting race. And, I wonder if just a lot of people are going to fall for, you pronounce the one?
Beauté Cachée.
Okay. Did you find that out from your mother-in-law? Or
Hidden
do you-
Beauty. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Say that like I should have known. Take a look at her winning her last start by a nose. She did overcome a ridiculously slow pace in here. It wasn't a good field, but to be fair, the third place finisher here was her entry mate, came back with a smashing win on closing day at Belmont.
She did, with an 89 buyer speed figure, and Union Dolly looked to be the lone pace in here in a compact field. And we saw just a grinding ride from my Red Ortiz that day, just able to get up over her. She obviously makes a lot of sense, and we'll see what she can do. She certainly faced some good horses over in France, where she was running in Group 1, just beating a length and a quarter in Group 3 company at Deauville before coming back in off the layoff. So second time stateside, you could actually anticipate a step forward.
I just noticed that 3 back she lost to the Clement horse
Avenue Niel.
that made a cameo appearance in yesterday's 9th race. But I believe you were even saying that you felt that horse would probably need a race. And that is true with that barn, the Clement barn with Europeans, with the foreign horses. They very rarely win with them first
Well,
time.
it's a big change, too. There's a lot going on, and especially when there's a layoff involved, too.
And there's an argument that cranking them up for their first start might not, in the end of the day, be in their best interest. So it's understandable. And I think the people that ignore that with trainers, it's the whole point. It's not everybody wants to win every race they're in, but they also have a bigger picture to look at, and sometimes not winning is helpful for winning in the future. You've taken Mise en Scène. You just knew that I finally gave up on her, though I have her third.
I didn't, actually, but we'll see if the Andy off angle does work. She does get blinkers on. To be fair, I wish that she had a little bit more punch last time out.
She was awful last time, and she was bet like they knew she wouldn't run. And that's the one reason I'm almost tempted to forgive it, because she was super 2 back. She got completely left. She was a week the best 2 races back. Now, granted, those horses weren't necessarily as good as these, but she ran great. And then last time out, she had a perfect trip. She was awful.
I know. And she was facing a good field last time. The blinkers go on. It's one more try here, but I just feel like there's some ability in there. And we saw a glimpse of it 2 back, and I'm hoping we can see her get back on track. The thing is that off of that last effort, I think that she'll be a price in here, especially with the Chad Brown runner.
Well, there's a lot of different places to go in here, so I think there will be horses that, if you like them, will be at seemingly fair enough prices. We'll see if that works out well. I'm not even going to go into how my friend Nick Tamaro pronounced her name to me on the phone the other night. It was horrifying. Well, it's a movie term, mise en scène. So, as far as Veronica Green and Pleasant Passage, Now, I know that For the Flag was able to get away with the pace in front and a relatively slow pace, and obviously that enabled her to overperform. I feel like Pleasant Passage is one horse that has not turned the corner this year for Shug. Now, to be
just gonna
fair,
say
she's
that.
only run through twice. She has every right to move forward at some point. But she's a good horse, and she was dramatically flattened here. I thought Veronica Green ran the better race. My question at the end of the day is, how good is Veronica Green really? She beats Expand the Map, who's still stuck in the non-winners of one while she's okay. And yes, she has a big figure behind market segmentation, but sometimes those stake figures, they just get carried along in there. And I'm just wondering how good she really is.
They both get blinkers on too, which I think is interesting. And Veronica Green doesn't have any speed. She was last early in that race. She's typically very far off of it. And I wonder if it's for a little bit more focus down the stretch or maybe to try to get her into the race a little bit more. And then you look at Pleasant Passage, who also gets blinkers on. And she showed quite a bit of speed towards the beginning of her career. And she's a very high energy type of filly too. And I completely agree with you. I wonder if she was just very precocious and may not have taken that step forward from 2 to 3. Today is kind of the day with the addition of the blinkers that she's got to show that it's still in there.
Oddly, I start to wonder if with fillies, especially the 2-year-olds, more so, but maybe the colts too, but more so the fillies, you're almost better off with horses that aren't that good as 2-year-olds aren't that fast,
later
because the
developing
ones they seem to have trouble making that big leap forward.
Yeah.
Though you see so many horses make the leap forward. Now, you don't have my top choice, Miss Carol Ann, in at all. It's owned by my friend Bill Krager, who put me out in the street when he bought the house where I used to rent.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's all right. I only have a little resentment towards her. We'll take a look at the second place finish. I would love to see Joel Rosario be aggressive with her in this spot and be forward. I don't think that there's an enormous amount of speed in this race. And this might be a good chance for Joel to be aggressive. And I thought she ran against a reasonable enough field last time. She obviously didn't run badly in her stateside debut behind Faith and Humanity and Gita Romantica. I thought she was a horse that made a certain amount of sense. She'd be a fair enough price, and she'd be forward in this race where I thought the pace was a bit murky. What is it that you don't like? Was it just a case of other horses, or you think I'm overrating her?
No,
So
it was just a case of other horses. I looked at her for a long time, and I thought that she's not the best gate horse. And so I wonder if breaking quicker, or I should say stretching out in distance, when sometimes they just kind of get outfooted, going 7 furlongs and going a little bit shorter and being able to go a little bit further, they get into the race a little bit better. So that certainly could happen here. Regal Realm came back and won a stake with an 89 buyer speed figure in her next start. At Canterbury, but hey, she still won. She's won 3 in a row, I think, now for Jonathan Thomas.
No, she's in great form,
good form.
and she ran off from that field.
I just slightly preferred others. I don't have anything against her.
See what happens. Interesting race. And I have nothing against the one Butte Cachet, but I just wonder a little bit if that horse, if you really want to take that horse at 8 to 5 or so in this field, where there seem to be some other options. We'll take a quick break.
To
we'll
work
be back.
on your French pronunciation.
What is it?
Botte Cachet.
Botte? Okay, I got mise en scène.
Yes, you did.
Oh, Phil's here. The infamous Phil. We'll talk with Phil more when we come back with the late pick 5.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Acacia Clement and Andy Serling. Race number 6. I always feel comforted when I guess with a first-time starter in these races, and people like David Aragona and you pick this horse because you're looking at the workouts in ways that I'm not, and I sort of guessed.
I'm just a big Lord of the Rings
with
fan.
Lady was that a Lord of the Rings?
You've never read Lord of the Rings? I thought you
Seen
would
them.
have. Yeah.
I went to see the final one, which is about 3.5 hours long.
Well, it doesn't make much sense if you haven't seen the first.
No, I
two.
saw the first two.
Oh, you did. Okay.
We went to the last one. This is when I worked at the Amex. We would go off and go down. My friend Mark and I worked for it at the theater in Battery Park, and made it through about 20 minutes of coming attractions. A 3.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
Got 5 minutes in the movie, and the movie broke. And we had to sit in
no.
the theater for half an hour, and they came back and said, the good news is it's fixed, but we have to show from the beginning again, so we had to sit through the coming attractions over again.
Oh, no.
Traumatic experience. I haven't recovered yet in so
Well,
many
I
ways. It
can
explains a lot,
understand.
actually.
I can understand.
So we'll look at the workout from Lady Arwen. Is it Arwen? Lady
Arwen, yeah.
Arwen at the OBS sales. And you talk about a horse that I picked, and I'm just sort of guessing. Jeremiah seems to have live firsters up here, and horse seemed to have a good work.
She was a little green in this workout. You can see she's asked along. She went 10-1 and sold for 30,000. Audible filly here, lugging and a touch, but she finished well, and she had a big stride on her too. And you can watch the workouts, especially quick from the gate in the most recent one, but then two back. Lorna, who works for Jeremiah, and you may see her in the post parades as well, and she's awesome. She was aboard, and this filly was just going on her own so easily. So I liked the workouts and the way that she seems to be coming into this and the preparation. And after that April sale too, she comes right in and she's had a series of steady works on the Oklahoma training track as well, and kind of getting into that groove, and certainly seems like she never missed a beat.
No question about it. Workouts going back to the middle of May up here in Saratoga. Grab the Glory. I have second. You have third. It's interesting. This horse really has a dirt pedigree. It's not. It's a half to Amundsen and Winner's Laugh, both very fast horses. I don't love that Linda Rice ran this horse twice on the turf. Maybe she thought the horse needed a race, but the horse got bet like she didn't need a race. And she seems to be going back to the right surface, but I kind of wonder, right?
Yeah, I wonder too, because it's interesting. If you watch this horse's races, she kind of moves a little bit like a turf horse. And so I wonder if that's something that Linda saw in training and said, okay, maybe we'll try her on the turf. Showed a little bit as part of a favorite entry with Graham in that debut, and thought, okay, we'll come back. She finishes third, and now it's kind of like, okay, let's go back to the pedigree and see if she's actually a dirt horse. It seems like they're searching a little bit.
Yeah, that's well put. Can't call it. I have fourth. You have second for the home team.
Yes, Gantharos filly. She's quick. She's quick. The one question I have, and again, you can watch the last work, and she's going on her own. As I remember Christoph saying, he's like, I just don't have any company that's quick enough early to keep up with her.
He'll train the speed out of her. Give her time.
No. Hey, come on. Look at horses like Senbei and Acoustic Ave. Very quick 2-year-old.
Please, did you have to bring up Senbei?
She's quick,
You really have to bring him up.
Well,
I know
I'm
he's your
very
favorite horse, but
heartbroken
I'm still,
recently.
I'm still.
Hey, the horse that beat him, Bring Me a Check, ran
Ran
very well
yesterday. I thought he was going to win that
yesterday.
race yesterday.
Really, I think flatters that race too. But one thing I do worry about her with her is that she had to be asked on the gallop out.
Keisha named Senbei, so she's particularly
you hadn't heard.
sensitive to Eddie. And Keisha told me the horse had worked well on the turf, and we bet back at Belmont and lost by a head, 6-1. I put Focus in. I just put all the Horacio De Paz horses in for the most part, and I actually thought 4 of the 5 horses from the dam were okay. So
Yes, absolutely.
all right, race number 7. Race number 7 was the race we were talking about. That listen, there's going to be people out there that have a strong opinion here, and they're going to cash. They're not me, and I don't think they're Acacia. I mean, I originally, believe it or not, I wanted to take Speedy Hans, and he was my original first pick. Now he's not in my top 4, and he's your 4th pick.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at a race of his back in Gulfstream last time on the turf. And my original feeling was, well, he's getting back to the turf, a surface he's run well on. But then the more you look, you think, well, wait a minute, this horse has run huge races on synthetic.
Yeah.
So what happened to his form on synthetic? And the reality of it is his form has fallen apart since Mike Maker claimed this horse. The opposite of which is usually the case. And listen, he can win. About 7 or 8 of these feel like they can win, maybe more, but I just feel like his form may be just skidding to nowhere.
It's very strange because prior to that, he was consistently mid-80s, even ran that 91 on synthetic. No matter what surface he was running, he was consistent. And lately, the last couple of races have just been very disappointing, and as the favorite as well. Yeah, as a favorite in both of those. So it's interesting. I have notes on him from way back when saying that he's a very narrow horse, actually looks more like a horse that wants to run on synthetic. So I don't know if he's necessarily better. I just wonder if he's not quite as good a horse as he was.
Yeah, that was where I finally landed. I probably spent more time on this race than any race I've
tried
looked
to
at all
make a case
meet.
for Tartini, who's coming out of
did
the
I.
Belmont Gold Cup. I really tried, and
He's not impossible. He's got back
not.
races. He's sort of a new face to the crew, and at least he ran well 2 back, albeit
did.
almost 2 miles.
Yes, he did.
But I mean, I think I've got him second or third here.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the horse to beat, I suppose, is Eyes on Target, who I have second, you have third. But this horse has done absolutely no running in any of those races.
I
None.
know.
And Eyes on Target was a super, super consistent horse. He was a horse that had some crazy trips for Bill Mott. It was a
Yeah.
great claim by Mike Dubb. They did really well with, but his form has badly dissipated, and he's dropping down. He's getting IRAD, and he's going to be 2-1 in this race. And I just could never take a horse at a short price in this race.
And last time out, too, I mean, you look at him, he broke running, which is usually a very good sign of horses that you're wondering, has their form taken a turn in the wrong direction? And when you see a horse break sharply, kind of get into the race like he did, and then he just was so flat late in the race.
Better
and did no running.
horses, but
Yes,
still, he just did
but-
no running at all.
I know. He's tough for me. I don't know.
Well, we've both taken Tommy B, and we'll show a race of
Begrudgingly.
his at right. We'll show a race of his from April 29th at Keeneland when he won.
had to go
you
back
talk
into the
about him.
archives a
I
little
could
bit.
probably come up with more reasons I don't like him.
I
We'll
know.
show a bad Brad Cox stat after this.
I
but-
went with his running style, honestly. He has a little bit of tactical speed. He doesn't have to be too far off of it. Dropping in class, second time in 2023.
The pace projector has him nowhere. I thought he'd be a little
I
more
thought he'd
forward as
be
well.
up close,
They have him
yeah.
towards the back of the pack,
Interesting.
right at the back of the back. I agree with you. I didn't think he'd be that
Yeah.
far back. And I felt like he hasn't completely and totally disgraced himself yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know his form, and maybe Brad's just dropping him to win a race. Listen, I can't. I'm sorry, but this to come up here and tell you I love a horse in this race or really go, I think that I'd be surprised if just about everybody watching isn't thinking this is one of the toughest races I've seen. And if there's some sort of magic key to this race, I mean, I tried to make Cupid's Claws, who has good back races, but his last race was
too.
atrocious. So how am I supposed to take him? As we said, Eyes on Target may win. Huge Bigley's another horse that I guess he's got some back for him, not impossible. Land Biscuit. What about Land Biscuit? At least in Land Biscuit's case, and Dave Knock doesn't claim many horses, at least he ran a decent race last
He
time.
did. Yeah, he did. Finished second. I wonder what Microsecond will do. I know that his good turf races were with Todd Pletcher, and they were a while ago.
His
but
form, though.
his form is awful recently.
Beyond awful.
But
Hideous.
they're in there. Let's see if we can find them.
I agree. He obviously can be forward. He could be the speed in this race, and
Yep.
see if Trevor can get him out there the way Luis Saez did, and he really took
I know.
advantage of sort of lack of aggression
I
with
know.
some others, and that was a great ride by him yesterday to get the win, and that's what Luis does so well. I agree. He's got turf races that'll smash this field. And I guess at least unlike a horse like Eyes on Target, he hasn't proven
hasn't been
lately he
on the
doesn't
turf.
want to
Yeah,
run
exactly.
on turf. But
Exactly.
man, where his dirt race is bad. And it's not like he hasn't run okay over the surface in the past. We'll see. Very tricky
Tough
race.
race.
Yeah. So race number 8. We'll take a look at Next winning the Brooklyn. How concerned are you? He's clearly the best horse and way the horse to beat. But how concerned are you with Seaphone in the race and potentially a couple other horses that could be forward, like the Skipper 2 and Dash Attack, that he's not going to have a cozy trip on the front end, and that could mitigate some of his advantage?
I do agree with that. And in the past, when he's been pressured a bit, he hasn't been able to sustain it. But since he's been able to go these longer distances, he's been able to get so comfortable on the front end. And I just think that he's the one in best form right now that I want. I don't trust Seafoam's form. I have a few questions about Lone Rock.
Well, you have to.
And so that's why I ended up going with Ness. But I do think that the pace is definitely a big question. in
That's
here.
the thing. I looked so long and hard at this race,
Yeah.
and I felt like he was completely gifted the Brooklyn. There were other potential
was.
speeds in there that made
Yeah.
no attempt to be forward. He totally walked on the front end. And listen, he's obviously good. And
He's a
I mean,
very
I
talented
picked him
horse, yeah.
second, and in no way would I consider him anything other than an A in this race. And I have my reservations with Lone Rock because he hasn't really been the Lone Rock that we knew a couple years ago for a
Yeah.
while. But, and as bad as he ran in the Isaac Murphy, and he was atrocious in there, no doubt about it, this race at Oaklawn makes him a major contender here. And he doesn't need a lead. He can stalk. And the problem is I don't trust him either. But I couldn't really, in all good conscience, take either the 5, Time for Trouble, or the 2, the Skipper 2, with the real reservations I have with them about getting the distance. And I have no
Yes.
reservations with Lone Rock.
I know, that's true. You know he's going to get the distance, that's for sure. And yes, I think it's a very fair point. That's why I put Time for Trouble in second, hoping that if Nest was the one that was going to be pressured, Time for Trouble was going to be the one kind of in that spot. But it's absolutely true. I mean, he won going a mile and 5/16 and a mile and 3/8 on the turf. That doesn't always
Very different
translate-
animal than a
exactly,
dirt
very
mile and
different
three-quarter
animal,
race.
Very different animal. Lone Rock could be in the perfect spot. The question is, does he still have
He could
it?
be in the perfect spot and
Yeah.
just back through the field and
Yes.
stink. I mean, and I hope he doesn't.
I hope he
obviously
doesn't
I picked
either.
him and I'm
He's a
going to
very
bet on
cool
him. But
horse, yeah.
and I'd like to see Jay get the win with him.
Yeah.
But I think you have to deny. I mean,
Yeah.
there's two schools of thought, and you're more in the school of thought. I know David Aragona felt the same way. He didn't have him in the top three. Lone Rock's going to beat me. I just think he's past his due date, and I'm not anyway. I can't argue against that. But he's 7-2 morning line, and if he ends up 3-1, 7-2 in here,
Yeah.
I'll gamble a little bit that he's not. That's the
That's
best
a
I can come
generous
up with.
price on that horse. If it was last year, you would have run to the windows
Yeah,
for that.
but even last year he started
I
to tail
know.
off.
Then he
That's
started
part
to
of the
go in the wrong
problem,
direction. That's
I
true.
mean, this horse ran that huge race in the Brooklyn 2 years ago when
know.
Central Quality won. Anyway, race number 9. Right under 9 is a great race. I
It's a fun
feel bad for Tom and Maggie in this race with Tie of the Sea. I
Oh,
understand.
he would have been able to run big in here. I know.
I
Yeah.
believe maybe the horse to beat in here.
Yeah.
I believe that the way it's set up, the allowance condition horses get preference. So there were 9
Right,
of them.
because he
or
was running for
there were
the
9
the
of them
claiming
and
price.
4 in for a tag,
Right.
and they spun the wheel, and Royne
Yeah.
got in. And I understand the frustration. Royne is, with all fairness, is stabled at Fairhill.
Right.
So I totally get a frustration being stabled here with that. And he's also a horse that was in a good spot. And win or lose, you wanted to be in there.
Yeah.
I thought this race was a very, very tricky race, and I've gone a little off the deep end with a horse that's either a very clever
did
pick
too.
or a very. I don't think your horse is a ridiculous pick. Can
I
we
thought-
can we show High Tides? Last race I had it as the last replay. Let's move it up. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess the question with him is how confident you are he's getting 11 furlongs, but he has run okay at it in his career.
Physically, last time I was in the paddock for that race off the layoff, and I thought that he looked good coming back. I just didn't like him running so short. So yes, it's all the way the other end of the spectrum, and it is a bit of a stretch. But I thought that he came back looking well, and I like that he showed some life behind Bring Me a Check, who had come back to get a 94 Beyer speed figure and then run third with a 95
Slow-paced
yesterday.
race, too.
Yes, slow pace as well. Wide, as you can see. And he was that horse that the claim was voided last summer, and that was a 14-way shake for that
Oh, yeah.
race. And that was ended up as a voided claim off the win. You don't know why. Came back for the waiver, which I thought was
Which means
very
he really didn't want to risk
encouraging.
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I thought was really encouraging last time. And then now we see him protected again and stretching out in distance. That was interesting.
He doesn't show up a lot.
He doesn't.
But when he does, he shows
Yeah.
up. I think he was my 5th choice in here, and I have no argument against him. I thought there was a lot of different stuff going on here. A horse that is going to beat me is Pioneering Spirit, and he beat me last time. He beat me 2 back. He's beating me like a drum. But I think that there is a world of difference between the horses that he met last time and the horses he's meeting today.
And it's hard when you go through your conditions so quickly like that, because each race you're coming in, and these 2 other than allowance races at NYRA are absolute wars. This is a very, very competitive and big jump that he's got to have to take.
Yeah, I mean, I think Space Launch is very dangerous, drawing down the inside. I know he's not much of a winning type. I think he's dangerous. I think Royne is dangerous in here.
Yeah.
I mean, Royne should have no problem with the distance whatsoever, and was in a race last time. It was a merry-go-round affair, so I didn't think he ran badly. I thought he was a major player in here. My thinking was Seraphos, and this is either, as I said, just a moronic selection by me or a very clever idea. You look at this horse's form. Where did his last race come from? I mean, Siege of Boston, he finished ahead of Eyes on Target in that race.
Yeah.
And I know we don't, but he seems to be on the upswing. And he feels like a 4-year-old that's really coming to hand for Graham Motion, that early in his career basically couldn't put 2 feet in front of each other. I mean, look at his races down at Tampa. I mean, he was worth about $5,000. Yet Graham never dropped this horse.
Yeah,
They
that's
kept
a good
staying
point.
with this horse. He's a gelding. They never dropped. They brought him up and put him in a stake up in Canada. He didn't run particularly well, but they went up to Canada for a stake with him. And it's not an Ontario bred. And I thought he showed some life last time. And the second generation on the dam side is European routers.
Yeah.
And I thought this could be a horse that just really is coming to life at the right time and comes to life going long. And I think it's a very solid field. but it's not exactly a field of horses that are wind machine types.
No, it's not. You have horses that have run well,
Right.
and then you have ones that are still trying to kind of break through. You know, the Dripping Gold, the Space Launch out of races like that, and.
It's
My
a
question
it's a
is
gamble.
that
It's a big gamble.
I know it's just that his previous turf races were
But his
so
last
disappointing.
race was just a
But
gigantic
it was very good.
move
I
in the
know.
right direction.
And Siege of Boston was 4-5 in there.
Right.
And
So Jimmy Toner horse is
yeah.
in great form, and
Yeah,
I just
very
thought
good form.
all of a sudden this horse is improving. And I can tease Graham Motion that sometimes he puts horses in tough spots, but it really feels like he's thinking the same thing. I need to get this
He
horse
really
to
wants
go
to go
long,
longer.
and he improved. Listen,
Yeah.
I pick lots of horses that run poorly. I might as well lose here at a big price, and I can make enough of a case to try to be a wise
Yeah.
guy with this horse. Race number 10. Race number 10 is the 9th and 10th.
fun one.
Don't
Yeah.
leave on this card
I
because these
know.
are really, really terrific
Yeah.
races. And, you and I have a similar theory in here, which involves Sasua Summer. I want no part of this horse. And as you look at this race where he finished second, spending the majority of the race on the rail, and it was a very strong rail with the rails coming down for the first time in the Belmont meeting and moving out in the stretch, whereas Famous Gent was 3 wide plus the entire way around the track and never had a fair chance, and he was coming after him at the end. I want Famous Gent, who has good back races, and I believe will appreciate the cutback in distance as well. So I want him, and I don't want Sasua Summer, and I don't think you do either.
I totally agree. I have Famous Gent in second, and Famous Gent, his trainer Fernando Abreu, trainer of Bring Me a Check, who we've mentioned a couple times. His horses, though
He's
he
been
hasn't had a
very
win up
live.
here, they've been live and they've been running. So take note of this barn. He's based in South Florida, but the horses I think that he's brought up to New York this year have been really well met and really well spotted.
Could not agree
Yeah.
more. Talk about Macalop.
Yes, I'm taking a
Do we
shot
know what a
here.
Macalop is?
I do not. I do
I
not.
feel like after a few drinks, I see a few of them. but maybe that's
No,
just
that
me.
could be.
No offense to the Macalops out
That
there.
could be. I'm taking a shot with him. I mean, who knows? It could just be that he can't run at all anymore.
Well, he lost to a good horse
Lost
last year.
to a very good horse.
Off the rail on a gold against a gold rail, so I
But
thought
it's
his race
interesting.
was fine.
I'm very interested in him sprinting. He's not the biggest horse. He was a horse I did not like trying the dirt, and I can understand why they wanted to try.
They
to
also may want to
see.
get him a race too,
Exactly.
to see where he
It
is.
could be a stepping stone race, but I'm just very intrigued by him getting back on the turf and cutting back.
No, I have him third, and I'm with you as well. Now, you're dismissive of Awesome Native here. Speaking of Rayos and TT with this horse, he ran very well in his last start.
he did,
and the
absolutely.
problem with him, of course, is he's going to get bet based on dirt form.
Yeah.
So from a gambling standpoint, he's probably a bad gamble, but there's a lot of turf in there.
There is. Plenty of turf. The dam won a couple times on the grass as well. Practical Jokes can certainly handle it. He ran very, very well, too.
He had trouble in this race. He
And-
was
and-
super last
yeah,
time.
And less ground is better for him
Yep.
as well. He was on the bubble for me.
Yeah, no, I listen. I'm not. I think he's an important horse to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. So there are two potential speeds in here, and I'm not going to be surprised when Irad's not aggressive. Well, Irad's been a lot more aggressive this meet, I think,
Mm-hmm. He has.
than people often assume with him. Because Charging's fast, and Charging's an interesting horse because he was involved in that fast pace
Yeah.
that fell apart in that yielding course where that pace is legit. You and I have talked about it ad infinitum. But Super Quest, who I have second, he might just not be good enough. And obviously his figures aren't good enough. But looking back at that race that he ran in back in December at Gulfstream, I thought there was an argument the horses behind him are a lot better than his final fig was, and wouldn't be surprised if he's a lot better. Now Time for US has a figure worse than Beyer does. So, or at least at best comparable. So I don't have anything to back it up from a figure standpoint. I would love to see Irad send this horse, and this is a big ask against these, but I got a feeling this horse is pretty good.
And he was very green in that debut, too. You could see him trying to get out a little bit. Jose Ortiz, who rode him that day, went to the riding crop. He was swapping leads. He was swishing his tail a bit, just very green on his own in the front. The question is we haven't seen him since December, and now he's coming back in a salty field here. But
And is he good enough anyway?
And is he good enough? But it's very interesting. And don't be scared by that maiden optional claiming races down at Gulfstream. They write a lot of those. If you're a Florida bred, it's you don't have to run for the claiming tag, so he was protected in there.
Of course, the problem is, and I see the morning line, he's not a bettable at 9-2. He's the kind of horse
wow.
you want at
Yeah.
12-1 because on
Yeah.
paper he's
Yeah.
not supposed to be 9-2, but because of Irad, he will be an underlay, and that's why David has him shorter. Acacia, fun as always.
As always.
See you again next Thursday. I'm sure I
Yes.
will see you elsewhere as well, and you'll probably see her elsewhere as well, but she makes a lot of treks around the track while I'm
cover a lot of
lazily
ground.
sitting in a chair. That sort of gets the heart of one of the main differences between Acacia and I. She's active. I'm inert. Anyhow, head on over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present. We will match the $200 of your initial deposit. We have the extra pick four, as we always do. 2, 4, and 7 for the pick fours in today's 10 race card. We have a $7,500 hit and split. The last try here and the first try at Del Mar. Opt in at Naira Bets. Go on over, read the information, share in a split of $7,500. We have the $300 contest on Saturday. You have until 5 o'clock today to sign up for this. Tomorrow, Naira.com/contest. We also have a feeder contest tomorrow. This, I'm guessing you have to sign up by 5 o'clock today. But get the information at Naira.com/contest. A fun way to get involved in the contest. Try to qualify in the $40 buy-in tomorrow. And speaking of $40, one of the best $40 you'll spend is the low roller contest. Jay and Ray are over in the Miller Time 4-Star Dave Sports Bar. $30 towards your bankroll, $10 the prize pool. Winner recently got $1,200. A lot of fun to play. I believe you get across-the-board wagers on your top 5 choices. A lot of fun. Check out the low rollers contest. It's getting more and more popular despite Jay being over there. We also have the First Responders Day. All first responders today are admitted free, and we appreciate, of course, all first responders as well, and hope they all come here and have a great day here at Saratoga's. You as well. And the show, 1 to 6:30 on FS2. Are you on early or late?
I'm on late today.
All right, so I won't be seeing you, but I'll hear you.
I'll be around.
All right, we're done. Frank Miramonte just getting started. He's up next, the reprise, Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. Carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga